Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
So last week I was at a conference.
Yes.
And it's a conference that I had attended as a professional development thing, not like a conference that we exhibit at.
Oh,
which is nice.
It.
It's like almost kind of like work vacation because I didn't have to do anything except for show up and enjoy it. But I was at, after the day, I'd met a bunch of new people.
Yeah.
And we all decided to go out to dinner together. And these are people I didn't know as strangers. My very favorite kind of situation. And so I'm sitting next to this guy, and we're both in software. And so we were talking about building apps and coding and our favorite frameworks. Oh my gosh. And then we were talking about...
No disrespect intended. My eyes just rolled in the back of my head.
And then we were talking about billing models for software as a service apps and businesses. And then we were talking about disasters, have our apps gone down and blah, blah, blah. Techie stuff. And then I was talking about how I've been really interested in how to make sure that my brain is functioning as best as possible using exercise and diet and being really mindful of those things.
That's interesting.
Then we started talking about our workout routines. Then we started talking about all the different diets we've tried, no sugar, intermittent fasting, keto, right?
Whole one, the whole
30.
One. Whole 30.
And then we were talking about our obsession of understanding how your body reacts to sugar and glucose monitors and all. I'm oh my God, how am I going on this crazy ass conversation journey that started with this complete stranger, and he's done and experienced all the same weird things that I have done. I'm sitting next to this guy. I'm this guy's a weirdo. I was oh crap, I am too. And then it actually kind of dawned on me.
Yeah.
Oh, this is my tribe here at this conference. No one else wants to sit at the bar and talk about how sugar affects your body generally. As a stranger, you don't just saddle up to someone and let's talk about intermittent fasting and how that affects your glucose levels.
And not with me.
Right?
Oh, wait, let me just put away this chocolate bar and finish the conversation.
Yeah, and then after that, let's talk about how to properly check code back into your production environment so you don't crash your app. Just flip between those two, right? No one does that.
Wow.
So
yeah, you definitely found someone in your circle, didn't you?
Yeah. And then it was like that the whole week. I would just have these crazy conversations with people who are into other weird things that I find fascinating.
Yeah.
So
what do you think about that?
Well, it was one of those things where normally as an introvert, I kind of dread having to go make the small talk and all that.
I know you do.
But then as soon as I was I bet most of these people kind of think a lot like I do, I would just dive right into the deep end right away.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Was this on day 4, right before the thing ended?
Yeah. It was kind of, it was more comfortable than that's kind of what I felt. I was I feel more comfortable around this group of people than I normally do. Because if it was something where there was a bunch of people who were super into
selling, salespeople.
Salespeople, that's an allergic reaction. No, or if it was a sports thing and people were talking about the NFL games or whatever pro sports is going, I'm I have no idea. I feel so out of place in those environments.
How do you, I don't mean to psychoanalyze you, but I just had this thought.
Mm-hmm.
So
ahead. Even
if you dropped yourself into one of those, like a bunch of NFL, enthusiasts.
Yeah, just all the bros talking about the latest sports thing. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think it would make you feel?
Oh, it's like super uncomfortable and reclusive. Like, I am not part of this group. I have nothing to say or add here. They all are into something I'm not into.
Yeah.
And I would just like slink away.
Slink. I always love when you use fun words like that.
I would attempt to become part of the furniture.
Slink. Slink. Well, and to me, it's interesting to think about, depending on when we drop ourselves into these social settings with these different groups. It's interesting to think about how our emotions drive our openness and willingness to try to have a conversation, and find people in our tribe versus when we are not feeling anxious about it.
So if you drop me into an environment where I was not feeling like it was for me, was not like my people, I definitely don't try. You're right. I definitely don't even try.
Right.
Like, there might be some like-minded people in the sports room, but I'm not probably even going to find them.
Yeah, because you're not really wanting to try.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's interesting is like finding someone in our tribe is so gratifying, like on a soul level. It's so great, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember, I always talk about my friend that lives in the UK, and we had such an interesting way we became friends because she was a consultant in the UK and I'm a consultant here. Her business is a little different, but there's a lot of crossover. And we were I was using a particular assessment tool, and she needed to get certified on this tool. So she came to America, and the owner of this tool said, I'd really like you to train her because I don't really like people and I don't want to spend 2 days with this woman. And so I was a little like, yeah, okay, I'm game, right? Like she seems, she's willing to travel all the way here at a drop of a hat and invest her time, and she kind of does what I do. Like, I'll be interested to talk with her. But something really strange happened because I was really open and so is she. It was like my split apart. It was like, here we're in this fancy schmancy hotel environment in a suite. And as she started to talk, it was the strangest feeling, like we had known each other for years. And within a half a day, I had already made plans to go see her 10 days later to help her close some business on this particular tool. And when I got there, I'll always remember that she's kind of showing me around her little UK village. It was just really cool. I'd never been there before. I was exhausted.
Oh, you flew overseas to go see her.
Yeah, so then I went over. Yeah, so 10 days after she was here in the States, I went over there to help her close this huge deal. And I just remember we walked in and she wanted to show me this church. And, like in the UK, there's millions of really old churches. And it was so interesting that was what she chose to take me to, because that would have been something I would have done. Like, come and look at this really cool cathedral. How many people would do that? No, not many.
Not many.
And we walked in, and I said, wow, the sounds, because there were choirs singing. It just happened to be, right? And it was such a moving experience. I said to her, oh, it's almost like your heart just comes out of your chest. And she looked at me and she said, we really are alike, aren't we? And from that moment, we've been like siblings almost. And this is like many, many years ago now. But I think that when you're open and you look for people with the right idea and mindset, it speeds the process of finding who your people are. And I just think it's so fun to find people that are in your tribe.
Yeah. Yeah. Like through the years, it's like some of the things that you need as you move through life change.
Yes, that's true.
Because like when you first have kids, the tribe you kind of need to find is
that's
all
right.
the other exhausted parents that don't know what they're doing. Like, remember those years? Because
oh my gosh, do I ever
have like the preschool stuff or the early childhood education stuff, or even before that, even when your kid's like an infant and you're just like trying to find any other exhausted parent in Target or on the internet to commiserate with.
Yeah, there's something really meaningful about finding those
Yeah,
people,
and I,
though.
I feel like during different life stages, you might have different tribes. You might be associating with different people, but there is a lot of comfort in finding the people that are going through the same thing you're going through at the same time
Mm-hmm.
and have a lot of the same thinking.
Yeah.
Like, and I really appreciate people that think differently than I do to give me different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, when you line up with someone
Yeah.
at that moment, it just feels so comforting.
I know. It feels so comforting because we know we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so often, I mean, especially with social media and stuff like that, we're constantly getting this barrage of how we're all different. We're so different, like everything's so divided. But there's just so many more things about us that aren't. And I think when we open ourselves up to that, finding people, like what you did, like what a fun and like just really life affirming experience to have people that you can talk to about these things that really matter to you. And I think it's very soul soothing. Like I want to use words like that to describe it because I don't think I'm talking about something just on the surface level. Like, yeah, it's fun to talk about diets on the surface level. But when you really start to talk about why and how things are important to you, that's where you really connect with people. And that's what we get really excited about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably that connection. It like when you find like-minded people, it speeds that connection.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause you don't have to do so much work explaining why, why you're such a weirdo.
Have you ever gone to something where you thought you were going to find your tribe and you almost tried to force a connection or not consciously, but subconsciously we were searching for something, thinking it was going to be where you found your people and it wasn't?
Well, there's this other conference I've gone to. Actually, I've gone to it like 3 times. And every time I go, I'm like, oh, here are going to be my other fellow software entrepreneurs. Because that's even what it's billed as.
Oh, sure.
Every time I go there, I'm like, I can't find anyone who I connect with here. And every year I'm like, I'm not going to go to that again. And then it rolls around. I'm like, well, maybe I'll try again.
Hey, do you think that there's ever a time where it's a natural thing where you think you're going to find your people, so you actually sort of force some connection or try to convince yourself that it's something other than what it is, but as we get older, we don't as much?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm specifically thinking about this organization that I used to be a part of, and I was really looking forward to finding my tribe. And it was billed exactly as that, coaches, speakers, trainers. This is for you if you're one of these 3. And there were 3,500 people at this thing. And I walked in and I sat down and I was so excited to be connected and so excited to find people that would be my lifelong companions in this effort of being a teacher, a coach, or whatever. And being so like, am I losing it? Like none of these people feel right to me at all. But maybe I'm just looking into it too much. Maybe and then this whole trying to second guess myself, Whereas now, if I were to walk into that kind of environment, I'd be like, oh, yeah, this isn't it.
Oh, yeah, like you'd know right away, and then you might just bail way faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is interesting, and I think some of it is our own expectations that we put on ourselves because we desperately want our tribe. I think we desperately want tribal. We are tribal people.
Yeah. Well, especially if you look at society as a whole, you could say we have like an epidemic of loneliness, right? So that we do have
done pods on that.
We have lots of people who don't have their tribe, can't find their like-minded people. And I'm not talking about family because a lot of times like your family, well, that maybe is like a tribal kind of unit.
Right. Right.
That's not what I'm talking about. It's just like, finding peers that think like you.
Yeah.
Is what we're talking about.
Or as I've always heard people say, it's not the family that I got, it's the family that I chose.
So the awesome thing about the internet is that it is awesome because you can find
anything.
Every single kind of people and thinking and interests and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a really good connector on this idea of finding my tribe.
Yeah, I agree.
I even had like someone who worked for me a long time ago. He was super into this one video game.
Oh, yeah?
Right? Yeah, like an online multiplayer video game. He'd spend like crazy amounts of hours in it. And at first you might kind of like make fun of somebody who spends like all their time stuck inside of a video game.
A lot of people doing that, yeah.
But what's interesting is he got to know this group of people inside this video game so well. They became really good friends. They started flying because I think some of them lived in California or like different states. They would fly on vacation. They would plan their vacation so they all flew to one place together.
Wow.
And he found that group as his core group of friends and ended up moving his family out to California because of it. So the internet in that way was a super good connector because he found like his tribe and went so far as to move.
I have friends of mine that were from Scotland and they moved to British Columbia, and they did the same thing. They were both gamers, the wife and the husband, and they got to be really good friends with the people they were gaming with, and they ended up doing camping trips and stuff with them. And they've become really, really good friends. And so you just can find things in just the most interesting ways now.
All over the place. It's awesome.
All over the place.
For as much as I kind of like poo-poo some things about the internet that I really don't like, it is a great way to find like-minded people. Really great way.
I also like your idea of that your tribe kind of changes over time. You know, if you were to look at my tribe, what I think is weird about my tribe is there's people from all walks of life and they're not all connected. I think that was from part of being an only child in a lot of different schools. Like every year I was the new kid in a new school.
Sounds more like you've got like a motley crew than a tribe.
Well, you might be
a ragtag crew.
You might be right. But what I love is I can sit and think about, when I was in 7th grade, I was friends with Cindy. And guess what? I'm still friends with her, you know? And when I was in 6th grade, I used to fish with my friend Laura, and I'm still friends with Laura. Like, you know, they're like different things tie me to different tribe members at different stages of my life. And even though I am now, you know, in my 50s, I still consider some of those nearest and dear to me because of that. Just because of in those moments, it was such a deep connection.
Yeah, what about your sourdough tribe? Are you part of that tribe?
Oh, yeah. Listen,
is that
sweet
still
cheeks,
going?
I got a sourdough tribe. I've got new sourdough friends that I didn't even know I was going to have a year ago.
Well, hobbies, like we've talked about this, hobbies are a great way to find your tribe or a new tribe because usually passion around doing some weird thing
feeding your sourdough starter
yeah
brings people together in a really binding way, and by binding I mean sticky sourdough starter.
So go back because you said we are tribal beings and we need a tribe. Go back to that part because I wonder about our society's narrative about being like an independent person or a self-sufficient person. Is that seems to be in direct opposition to the idea that we are tribal people and we need to be part of a tribe to survive.
I feel like
do you resonate with that statement?
I think there is a push towards that. When you think about it from the social experiment piece that you just talked about, and I added the word experiment. This is not how we've always talked. This is like this little narrative that has taken over in the last few years. You know, make your big dollar on the internet. Be different than everybody else. Be the influencer. Be the da-da-da-da-da-da. Your tribe isn't your tribe isn't your partner. Or your tribe is your partner, but you're leading everything.
You know what we got to do? We have to correlate popular language and self-referential language and action with the invention of the front-facing camera on your smartphone.
Yeah. So good.
Do you have anyone in
another JJ
research? I want to
business idea.
research that.
Let me just quick
Need a
write this down
study.
before I forget.
It's not a business. This is like curiosity. Well, we have there again with the advent of some of our newer technology.
Yeah.
We do have this like very self-focused thing happening. And is that going to push too far? Because I mean, I remember growing up. I mean, I even know families that even their family unit is much more communal.
Yes.
But to me, it seems like the modern American family unit is you raise kids grow up, they get their own house, they get their own everything, and they don't even need hardly any support from their parents anymore.
Right, exactly.
Whereas you'll see other cultures that where the adult kids and
they all
mom and dad
together.
and grandma and grandpa and everyone all still live together and they all still help each other out and they all still do meals and cleaning everything together.
Right. And share the load. Yeah. I think that I will go back to the statement that we are tribal people. We need each other. We need each other in very deep, abiding ways. And this is not to say that we lose our independence as a result of that. I think that we become more able to be independent safely and freely when we have an interdependence with our tribe. You know, it's a wider base than just 2 feet. And I think we don't take enough time to value that piece anymore because there's just this pressure to get ahead and to be this, to be that. And I feel sad about that, but I don't think it's going to stay like this. I really don't. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I think we will come back more to the relational pieces of life. I mean, we've been talking about, the Surgeon General just came out with another thing talking about loneliness, that the epidemic of loneliness is greater than it's ever been in this world of social connectivity, bigger than it's ever been. Well, what's the disconnect here?
Yeah, how can that be?
How can that be?
We have removed all physical barriers to communication and connection between people. It's instant across the entire globe, yet everyone feels more lonely.
Yeah. I mean, even like with this whole advent of AI, remember when AI first hit the scene like several months ago, you brought this up to me right away and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be. And the first thing that we started to do is we started to ask, is AI going to replace relationships? And we ran some questions. Remember that? I just think we need human touch. We need human connection. We need human eye contact, not just through a screen. And I think that it's great to have several people in our circle, but I think that it's really, really impactful and wonderful when it's our tribe. You know, when we focus on growing that tribe or at least holding that tribe as sacred. And that's the word I would use, is sacred.
All right. Well, good. Now what are we going to do?
So this guy that you met at the bar, you know, where you're talking about the whole 30 and then software
diets,
coding, I don't know if that's a sacred tribal member. I think I think that there's a continuum, right?
We did come up with a business idea together, though, so I don't know. Like,
okay.
Like
Stay
he might
tuned.
be, it might be.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone who can riff on one of my crazy business ideas, I'm kind of down with.
All right. Well, we'll hold that off to the side. See what happens.
Stay tuned. Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.